Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sleepless Cinematic Podcast, where we explore our shared love for watching and discussing movies recorded in the late after work hours, often in lieu of a good night's rest. I'm Julian.
I'm Madeline.
And I'm Emilio. The three of us are colleagues at a Midtown Manhattan music school. Yes, music is what brings us together, but movies are what keep us together, talking at the end of the night. So we've created some order to this ongoing trend by recording these conversations, considering an overarching theme while we cycle through 5 unique guidelines for engagement.
You can email us at sleeplesscinematicpod@gmail.com. Seriously, we would love to hear from you. And you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok for updates, highlights, clips, and other visual supplements to the audio we record at Sleepless Cinematic Pod.
In addition to these main episodes, we record and release bonus one-off episodes as we see fit. While we do this, you, the listener, can count on the three of us doing what we've grown to love, foregoing sleep for a discussion about movies every other week.
And this week, we begin a new cycle of unorthodox holiday movies. In keeping with last year's conceit, each entry in this cycle will be a suggestion box episode, where one of us elects a film for the group to discuss. At least one of us will be seeing this movie for the first time, and differing opinions may or may not be held among us.
And tonight we will be discussing 1974's Black Christmas, directed by Bob Clark and written by Roy Moore, starring Olivia Hussey, Margot Kidder, John Saxon, and many more.
Yes. Now, before we get into this movie, I want to introduce our guest. And in doing so, I have to briefly mention another movie because last month I attended a screening and Q&A of my dear friend Anu Valia's feature film, We Strangers. And I'm delighted to say that, my bias aside, We Strangers was quite good. I wholeheartedly recommend that people seek out this film. It has very interesting themes. It's visually very engaging, has some standout performances. And this movie was very well edited, which brings me to right now. Our guest today, sitting across the table from me, was responsible for that last compliment. He was the editor of We Strangers and has had over a decade of experience in the industry as an editor for film and TV. I was so impressed how he casually dropped Thelma Schumacher and Casino as an influence for a very specific moment in We Strangers involving a check. And I earmarked him as someone I'd love to reach out to have on the pod. And when I asked him about joining us for Black Christmas, to which he replied, quote, "I love," in all caps, "that movie," end quote, I had an even better feeling about the kinds of insights he was going to bring to our conversation. James Codoyannis, welcome to the Sleepless Cinematic Podcast.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much. What an intro. I'm so touched.
Well, there was that personal connection where I was seeing a high school friend live out a dream that we had all talked about. And it was so cool for me to get to chat with you and make that kind of connection to, get to speak to somebody who was so intimately involved in a movie that I genuinely enjoyed and thought was really good. And I felt like your role in that movie, I think, not to say that an editor isn't an important part of the creative process, but I think for this movie in particular, for the way it's paced and for the way that the composition of the frames are really carefully thought about, when things are cut and how things are cut. My hat is off to you, man. It was really good.
Oh, I really appreciate that. Yeah, that was a really great movie to edit. And I really am very pleased with, how it turned out. And I love working with Anu and sort of like this community that she, brings together on every project that she is a part of and sort of spearheads and all this stuff.
Right.
It was just such a terrific experience. And like that crew, especially, like our post crew and the production crew, were all just so tight and just like proud of each other's work. Like I really just I feel like whatever work that I contributed to its edit, would not be complete without, Charlotte Hornby's frames or, my friend Patrick's, sound design and, all this stuff. And these performances from Kirby Hell-Baptiste.
She's so good in that.
Yeah.
She's incredible. Yeah.
Cool.
And that was just like such a fun time, fun movie to work on that ended up, if you see it, it's very playful and kind of, idiosyncratic and, a unique kind of trip of a movie, that was a lot of fun to put together with Anu.
I can't wait to see this movie.
I'm very sold on it now.
Yeah.
It's being put out by Quiver Distribution, and it had some sold out screenings in Los Angeles and New York, and possibly expanding to more cities. But now it is available on VOD, so you can rent it.
Awesome.
Sweet.
That's awesome.
Check it out.
I had the vague feeling that I had heard of this movie even before it came up just now, and I was just looking on the Wikipedia, and it's like just little detail by little detail. I'm like, yeah, I have to watch this. Yeah.
Well, we've spent a couple minutes talking about We Strangers. I'm excited for that for many reasons, but we're not here to talk about We Strangers necessarily. We are here to talk about Black Christmas. And though it's a Christmas-themed horror film from yesteryear, let's not confuse Black Christmas with Silent Night, Deadly Night,
Right.
which came out in the early 80s, 1984, that boon of slasher films. This one also centered around a young man killer, apparently with some awful trauma, who decides that Christmas season is the perfect time to start offing people. Has anybody seen that movie?
I've heard of it, not seen it.
No, I've not, but I'm sure that you know that one of the original titles of Black Christmas was Silent Night, I think Evil Night.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
makes this confusion even more possible.
Exactly. 100%. Yeah.
Totally.
Silent Night, Deadly Night, I don't think a really great film, but I think fans of the genre, there's
Okay.
stuff in there for them. So do not confuse Silent Night, Deadly Night with Black Christmas.
And also don't confuse it with Violent Night,
Oh, yeah.
which is from a few years ago. It is an action comedy movie in which David Harbour plays Santa Claus, who, according to the Wikipedia, fights mercenaries after who have taken a wealthy family hostage. I didn't see this movie, but just from the impression I got of it, I feel like it's a similar kind of movie, maybe to what Emilio you're describing with Silent Night, Deadly Night. It's like, don't go expecting a masterpiece, but it's probably going to be pretty fun.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. I mean, they come out from in very different eras, I
Yeah.
think. And my vibe of Violent Night is it's kind of going for the like David Harbour from Stranger Things is a killer Santa, and they're kind of working off that from the marketing.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're incorrect in saying that.
Apparently, there's a sequel in production too, set to be released next year,
Okay.
in time for the holidays.
All right. And
Yeah.
we're going to move slightly away from horror, but we should say that Black Christmas is also not to be confused with The Black Cauldron,
Oh, yes.
which is the 1985 Disney animated film about an assistant pig keeper who sets out to rescue an oracle pig who has been kidnapped by a villain known as the Horned King, who is voiced by John Hurt.
What do you know
Wow.
of Alien and Watership Down?
Yeah. And many
He
other
voiced
things.
some characters.
Elephant Man,
Elephant Man.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Heaven's Gate.
Yes. Also reprised his role from Alien in Spaceballs.
Oh wow,
yeah.
Not again.
that makes me think about how like Will Ferrell appears multiple times in the Austin Powers movies.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
In multiple roles. Yes. Yeah. Good point. Yep.
Yeah,
Did you have one?
Yeah, I do. Also, outside of the horror genre, Black Christmas is not to be confused with A Castle for Christmas,
Mhm.
the 2021 Netflix-produced Hallmark knockoff starring Brooke Shields and Carrie Elwes.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yep, in which Brooke plays a best-selling American author looking to buy a castle in Scotland.
Mm.
'Cause you can just do that.
Yeah, you can just do that, especially when you have, what is it? She's like an author of romance novels.
Ah,
Oh, yeah.
like
There
a
was an era
Colleen
where they
Hoover.
made some coin.
They made some serious money, but like the Duke who owns the castle, played by Elwes, is not interested in selling it to her. They really butt heads until they fall in love.
I was going to say
This
until
is
they fall in love.
classic Hallmark.
Yeah, it's a beautiful movie with a really strange kind of like artificial tone, kind of like glimpsing into an alternate universe a
Yeah.
little bit.
Ah, I like this.
We watch it every Christmas. Directed by Mary Lambert, who made Pet Cemetery.
So
Wow.
that the remake or the original?
The original.
Ah.
Yeah, which kind of brings us back to horror.
I think
Yeah.
it does.
Okay.
Ooh, well done, sir.
Yeah,
That's very good.
nice.
Yeah.
And Black Christmas has also had a couple of remakes. So
Oh, that's true.
we need to be really clear that we're covering 1974 and
Not
not
the-
2006 or 2019.
That's a
Yeah.
very good point. Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think that because of those remakes, like I was a little surprised when I first heard the notion that the original movie is a classic in some way. There were a lot in like the 2000s. There were a lot of remakes of classic horror movies, whether it be like Halloween or Prom Night, things like that.
They did a Nightmare on Elm Street too.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was an interesting remake actually, because I remember that had what's his name, Jackie Earle Haley.
Jackie Earle Haley. Yeah, he plays Freddy Krueger in that.
But you also see like Krueger like being chased down by the townspeople or something.
Yes, yeah. Well, they kind of go back to that lore. Yeah,
yeah.
They're like giving it that.
They do like a whole flashback and stuff.
I want to come back to this, but I think that's something that a lot of those aughts horror movies try to do.
Yeah,
is that they try to give some of the fan service of like, what was that backstory? What was that? And I didn't see these films, but my understanding is I know that that's what they tried to do with Black Christmas.
Yeah, I heard somebody talk a little bit about the 2019 version, and it sounds like kind of insane because it seems like kind of what they've added is this cult element to it. Like the killers are more associated with the fraternity, but the fraternity is like actually a cult, is like led by this leader who's trying to like punish women through something. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Also played by Cary Elwes.
Oh my gosh.
It
all comes back to him.
But I think in that slew of aughts remakes of classic horror movies, I didn't realize that Black Christmas was a remake. I just sort of assumed it's like, oh, you want to make a Christmas horror movie? Why not change White Christmas to Black Christmas? That's clever.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was done a while back.
Yes,
1974.
Yes. And in said while back portrayal, what was that about?
Great question, Julian. It's Christmas time on an undisclosed college campus, and the Pi Kappa Sigma house is winding down their collegiate work with some light partying to usher in the holiday break. Amongst the housemates are the likes of boozy Barb, even boozier house mother, Mrs. McHenry, and some kind and friendly ladies with boyfriends named Claire and Phil, just to name a few. Unbeknownst to them, they are about to receive another house guest, someone whose face is not shown to us, at least not yet. He lurks around the house a bit before climbing up the building's trellis and enters through the attic. And while this party goes on, a phone rings and another housemate named Jess answers it. It's the moaner, she tells her friends, denoting that they've experienced this before. But as Jess stays on the line, the voice on the other end begins saying more and more graphic, cryptic, and unsettling things. He's expanded his act, says Barb. It's brushed off in the moment as a very committed prank call, but when Claire goes missing that very night and the deranged, almost schizophrenic calls continue to mount, the ladies at Pi Kappa Sigma suspect that there might be cause for concern. They involve the local police, who are not very helpful at first. The lead officer, Lieutenant Fuller, begins to look into Peter, Jess's boyfriend. Are some current academic and personal concerns in his life triggering a murderous, psychotic break? Or is the one responsible for all these disappearances and murderers someone else, someone more troubled and evasive than anyone there on campus is prepared for?
Very good.
Dun, dun,
Well,
dun.
wow.
Or maybe I should have said that like dun 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 dun
Ha.
dun 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 dun.
That's
Yeah.
true. Although they lean on "Hark the Herald," angels sing a lot in this one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right up front.
Which is high key my favorite.
Your favorite Christmas
It's
song?
my Christmas song.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is maybe a reason why I like this movie so much, but
Even though horrifying things happen while it plays.
that's very true.
Yeah.
Yes. It's still a bop in my mind.
This is reminding me too. There's a scene in Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight where Silent Night is also played in like the build up to an incredibly violent outburst.
There we go.
Yeah, it's on like the Damien Bashir character plays it on the piano. But anyway, speaking of classic horror movies and aughts remakes, this is also not to be confused with When a Stranger Calls.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point.
We stopped not to be confused a few minutes ago, but that does feel like an important thing to clarify with
No.
this movie.
I think
That's fair enough.
I think that would be correct.
I've only seen the remake, and because I feel like that came out when I was around like 13, 14, and I was finally allowed to watch PG-13 movies. So that was like an early one for
Yeah.
me. And I never actually went back and watched the original. I'm sure it's better.
I saw the original. It was in the running for the dingiest VHS that we had at our video store because it was released in 1979 and it was like still the
That's the
video
same
from
tape.
from the same tape. And it was pretty grainy, but I kind of liked it. It does a little bit of what this movie does.
I want to
think.
get to it one of these days.
Yeah.
Very specifically, though, Black Christmas and When a Stranger Calls are constantly, there's this big dispute about where does the call is coming from inside the house come from.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I guess we'll get to it later with Black Christmas, but I think the line that we all think of is from When
the Stranger
Calls.
Yep.
So it's like everybody's always like, well, no, it's this movie. No, it's that one.
Yeah.
It's coming from inside the house versus the
Coming-
call is coming from the house.
Yeah, or like from 6 Brookfield Place or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Well, this was my suggestion. So I have some backstory with this, but I'd love to hear everybody else's here. I know, Julian, you were the one who hadn't seen it. Maybe we'll start with you. What was your take on this?
Well, I've said a little bit about my initial thought, I've said a little bit about my initial sense of, I guess, the franchise Black Christmas, having known about the aughts horror remake, but not realizing it was a remake. And so I think it wasn't until around 2.5 years ago when we began this podcast and we're talking about some of our all-time favorite movies, or if not favorites, just movies that hold a special place in our hearts. And you, Emilio, you were talking about how you think Black Christmas is a really underappreciated and essential slasher movie. It was really at that point that I started to think, oh, okay, this is worth considering. And then, ever since then, it's come up again from time to time, often from you, but from other sources too, that like some people think this is like maybe a little bit in like the relationship that Phantom of the Paradise has to Rocky Horror, like the lesser known and better counterpart to Halloween. Now, having seen both Black Christmas and Halloween, I think they are both excellent. And yes, Black Christmas, I had a thoroughly good time watching it. This movie, in some ways, it really met my expectations. In some ways, it really subverted them. And I'm excited to articulate just where exactly those things happened.
Love it. How about you, Madeline?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have a whole lot more to say beyond that. I have seen it, but from your recommendation. So I borrowed it from you.
Yeah.
I guess 2.5 or so years ago.
Yeah.
2 or 3 years ago, I borrowed it from you.
And I actively didn't ask you what you thought of it. You just kind of handed it back to me.
I feel like I had kept it for like a really long time. And I was feeling bad about that. So I was like, oh, here's your movie I've had for months. But I mean, I thought it was excellent. I really, really enjoyed it. And I think I probably watched it around this time of year. So probably 3 or so years ago.
Okay.
I think I watched it around Halloween and I had a great time. And then this time I just watched it on archive and Dougie was like, I think we had it on Blu-ray from Emilio and I kind of missed the high visual quality
Gotcha.
from the Blu-ray. It's like on archive, it's it's a little grainy, that rip, but I still had a really good time rewatching it. But I'm like, oh, I gotta buy this on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You, James, just told us that you actually do have it on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I have it on 4K Blu-ray.
There we go. As a cinephile would.
It's interesting. Like, when did you first see this movie?
I saw this movie about 4 or 5 years ago, but I'd heard about it for years and years. It was on the Criterion Channel. I think they did a series about 70s horror.
This is exactly the same way that I saw this movie.
Was it?
Cool.
Yeah, because like I'd always been casually familiar with horror movies in general, and then like a few years ago, I went in. I wanted to do like a deep dive of like canonized, popular, iconic horror movies and things like this. And in that same series, they had another Bob Clark movie called Death Dream.
They did.
Yeah, which I watched first.
Okay.
And really loved it. And then I came to Black Christmas, which I'd always heard about as like this big prototypical slasher film. And I was really kind of like gobsmacked by it. I mean, especially also, you come to this movie, that pair of movies, knowing Bob Clark, he's most well known for A Christmas Story.
Exactly. I love
Porky's.
that. I love that. It's like you have these two insane pulls of like Christmas films.
Yeah.
And in many respects, really beloved, both of them. One by more niche.
Different audiences, though. I think mostly.
And especially Christmas Story having kind of this nostalgia bent to it, this one prototypical slasher that has a sort of progressive undertone to it, which we can,
for sure,
but what I was first struck by with this movie was just the atmosphere
Yeah.
for a slasher film. I have now seen this movie like 3 or 4 times, and
Same,
the
yeah.
more times I watch it, it kind of feels like a sacred text for
Mhm.
horror movies or
Yeah.
something. Like it's influence, it casts a shadow that's like very long and deep. Um, but there's something about it that feels like a haunted house film more
Yeah.
than a slasher movie.
Mhm.
The entire look of it feels like it's lit by fireplace. There's like a warmth to it that is just so dreadful,
Totally.
Yeah, it just feels, separate from a lot of slasher films that might have like a little bit more of an emphasis on high octane
Yeah.
gore sequences,
Right.
which I mean was happening a little bit at the time with giallo movies in Italy, and this film kind of certainly takes a cue from those kinds of movies.
Yeah.
But I was really struck by how this felt ghostly more
Yeah.
than anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've talked about in the past when we talk about movies from the 70s that have gone on to be very influential, it's movies like Jaws, or we talked Close Encounters on Stone's Top 10. And I'll throw in like The Godfather, but we also talked like The French Connection, that what makes them really good is that they're rooted in classic filmmaking. They take time with characters. They take time with developing a story.
Mhm.
And so just calling Jaws a monster movie, or Close Encounters an alien movie, or The Godfather a mafia movie, or The French Connection a buddy cop movie is like just way too reductive.
Yeah.
And I think Black Christmas is the same with a slasher movie.
Sure.
It's like, to call it a slasher film, I think is just dulling all of the edges of this movie that make it really interesting. Like, this is just a really good thriller.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
feel like often with the term slasher, there is like one of the reductive things about it is that it's not that people don't consider this, but I think the sort of more intellectual interpretations of the underpinnings of the slasher genre sometimes get smoothed out when you're just focusing on the terror in those movies.
Yeah.
And that I think that there's like, there are just these gender politics and social dynamics at the root of all these stories that, in addition to the fact that these movies, be it Black Christmas or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Halloween, all deliver on the thrill level, that they really have a lot to consider about psychology and social dynamics and things like that. So Black Christmas, it seems like, is really at the forefront of a lot of these movies. It's the same year as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre too.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the kind of movie that makes me feel very nostalgic for my time working at the video store,
Mhm.
because this is the kind of movie that I would have like championed around Halloween time, where
Yeah.
I'd be like, everyone wants to rent Halloween, everyone wants to rent Friday the 13th.
But those aren't available, so take this.
So take this one, and you know what? You might even like it a lot more.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Yeah.
It's the kind of movie that when I talk to you guys about starting a podcast, this is the kind of movie that
I want to talk about.
Want to
Yeah.
talk about.
Yeah, it's like an unsung classic in that kind of way. Yeah.
Totally. And well, watching Black Christmas, I think we've already acknowledged this a little bit, but this movie has a very unique kind of tone to it.
Mhm.
Maybe we can attribute that to it being a forerunner of its greater genre. Maybe we can attribute it not to that. Maybe that was a very conscious move against existing movies. We'll get into it, but as a first-time viewer of Black Christmas, I was really impressed by how patient this movie is. Like, it delivers on the suspense, absolutely, but a lot of the movie, it really takes its time to let things build up, and then when some of the scares happen, they're not as bombastic as I think a lot of horror movies lead us to expect. And so what do we think of like the generally patient pacing of Black Christmas?
I mean, what's interesting to me is that the action in this movie, it does get going pretty early on. Like, the film opens with, the POV shot from the killer. And I think that it's around like 12 minutes in when Claire gets attacked. But then it's like, that's where it shifts to exactly what you're talking about. It's got 30 minutes or so before Mrs. Matt gets killed. So it's like 30 minutes of character development and really digging into the story and how these characters are interacting with each other and setting up like Peter as kind of this red herring that we'll talk about later. It's like you really dig into all of that. And I think what makes this film so effective is the fact that all of that is still really vital to this movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't have action in the traditional sense, but it never slows down. I don't feel like I think every scene is of vital importance, and it just continues to kind of be at that like slow kind of rolling boil the whole time.
Yeah.
And then I think to what you're saying, that makes these killings, when they do happen, a lot more impactful.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of little details. Like the movie does a great job of planting little things so that later when like Jess can't open the door, it's like,
oh yeah, we went and locked all the doors and windows.
Exactly. And what I like is I feel like those moments in this movie feel very organic.
Yeah.
It just feels like you've gotten to know these people more. I'm so with you.
That's absolutely right. And all of this happens after that first killing. So that is kind of all sort of casting a cloud over all of these proceedings of us getting to know these people.
Yeah.
I mean, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the POV shots, which is kind of like a major sort of slasher trope.
Yeah.
And we'll see it in Halloween, and, you get the killer's POV. There's this great progression of the POV shots in this movie where it begins in the killer's POV, and then eventually it kind of like moves on to, it could be anybody's POV.
Yeah.
At one point, it's Margot Kidder's POV.
Yeah.
And then it kind of ends in this place of like, it's the camera's point of view.
Yeah.
Where at the end, when Olivia Hussey is
in the bed,
and then the camera just starts floating away
like through the house,
like totally unmotivated.
Yeah.
And it's so eerie and just gets under your skin in this way of kind of, I don't know, indicating that like the killer is still loose.
Yeah.
Right.
This case is not shut.
Right.
This is, it's this feeling of uncertainty, So like the way the POV shots are doled out across the narrative, that there is this progression in a way that I feel like a lot of slashers just simply rest on it being the killer's point of view as they're stalking their next victim, something.
Right.
This first half hour too, after that first killing, which, you have her, she's in the attic, she's got a bag over her head. It's kind of like this iconic,
man.
it's really eerie.
It's creepy.
But then the tone of the movie though is like irreverent, boozy, goofy.
A little bit,
Totally.
Quite goofy.
Yeah.
This woman, the house mother, what's her name?
Mrs. Mack.
Mack.
Yep.
Funny, like behind the scenes thing is that they offered this to Betty Davis.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
I do remember reading that.
Yeah, they offered,
crazy.
and
Oh, wow.
she passed. Like it seems like it would be a good like Ethel Merman role. Maybe,
little bit, yeah.
Like eventually she would do Airplane, but
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
when she's like drinking this, what is it? It's
Like
sherry.
moonshine? Oh yeah, sherry. Yeah, she got
Yeah,
sherry.
this just like do you guys drink sherry?
No.
I've had it.
I don't
It's
think
like
I've had
it's an old person's drink.
It's
That's
a
like
little
how I know
sweet
it.
for me.
It is sweet.
The way she takes sips of it,
Yeah,
though,
she
it's
slugs it.
very like toothy.
Yeah. She's
It's
into
just,
it.
I mean, she like brushes her teeth at one point and sort of like gargles
Switches
sherry.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the 2006 remake, it's Andrea Martin that plays
Right.
Mrs. Mack.
Oh,
who's-
right. Bringing
who's
it back.
filmed
Yeah.
this. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I don't know if she's as boozy.
I think she'd have to at least like do a little nod to it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
she'd have to have like a little flask hidden somewhere. I love how much alcohol she's hiding in this.
Right. Well,
It's in really
books.
unique
books.
places. The
Yeah.
books and then the toilet.
The toilet, yeah,
commode.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's so crazy.
To your point though, like you could definitely read it like, oh, this movie's now kind of going for camp.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things I really like about that is I think some of the more progressive elements of this movie
Yes.
are in that half hour.
Yeah, I definitely felt how progressive it was for its time. Like being like, well, something that is so centered on a majority of female characters for one thing, but also, just dealing with gender politics, I think, in a way that a lot of movies of that time would not do in such an upfront way. Like, well, you made a little bit of passing reference to Peter, Madeline.
Yes.
No one was using the term toxic masculinity back then. At least I don't think anyone was using that term, but he's a great example of that very concept before it had that name.
Yeah, this kind of overbearing partner with expectations. Like, I mean, I just want to, call attention to his like performance review scene.
Oh,
Oh
dude.
yeah, like his jury.
Oh my God. When he's like sweating all over
Yeah.
the keys and
The,
stuff.
the
It's just
piece,
like, that's really intense.
The piece is really interesting, though.
I was really curious about that
I
piece.
know.
I was
Yeah.
wondering if either of you knew it.
I believe, I could be speaking out of school, I believe it was actually composed for the film.
No
Okay.
kidding.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah. But it's
Yeah.
like a really neat piece. Like
Yeah.
I think it fits the vibe really well, not just with whatever might be plaguing him mentally, but I think just also the film.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's cacophonous.
It is,
basically.
yeah.
I mean, and the score of this film in general sort of like takes that into another level where it's just scratching the
We
piano.
Gotta talk about this.
Yeah.
This is one of the details I fucking love about
Incredible.
this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the way that they take that moment or kind of the scratching of the piano strings
Yeah.
and also the crashing.
I mean, he starts
That's-
destroying the piano.
That's such
Yeah.
a difficult scene to watch.
It's a very
Yeah, it's a
difficult
yeah,
scene
I'm
to
like,
watch.
oh, this poor piano.
Steinway. It's a Steinway too, for goodness sake.
Yeah, I mean, you know, at the risk of sounding a little controversial, that's almost harder to watch than some of the kills in the movie because
So funny.
Because I assume like
Yeah.
there's not a way for them to do that and actually protect this piano.
Right,
I don't think.
right.
Like,
I wouldn't
you're
think
causing
so either,
actual
yeah.
damage to this piano, whereas I do feel confident that the actors make it out the other side.
Well, it's-
This piano
Yeah.
didn't though.
I said something about the Hateful Eight not long ago, and there's a scene in that where the Kurt Russell character destroys a guitar.
That's true.
And that like Jennifer Jason Leigh looks on in horror as that's going on, and that was real.
Oh, and it was
Because
like an antique or something.
It was an
yeah.
antique on loan from a museum that refused to loan guitars again after that happened.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, I heard about
fair.
that. I remember that.
That's,
Yeah.
So that, I mean, I didn't know it watching that movie the first time, but it's like that would make me squirm in the same way.
That would have to be in the movie, by the way.
Yeah.
If Quentin was like, I don't know if we need this scene, I like it's got to be in there. Yeah. No, but I love how that bit of sound design
Mhm.
is, and watching it back this time, I was really trying to pay attention. That bit of sound design is there even before we see that scene,
Yeah.
which I think is
Yeah.
just awesome. Like, come on, like that is A++ filmmaking.
Yeah, there is a little bit of like this subconscious implication of Peter's guilt as possibly the killer.
Yeah.
Like it just adds to the atmosphere in a way that like an orchestral sort of hit would never. It's so much more uncertain,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
unclear, and ambiguous, and you know it kind of speaks to Peter's
Yeah. Let's
track
talk about
back.
Peter.
Like let's talk about Peter. Like to track back to what we were talking about, like the progressive politics featured in this film. I think that like there's a key scene, you know, when he totally bombs his performance review. He goes to the house
Mhm.
and says, like, I'm quitting school. We're going to get married,
Yeah.
you know?
It's presented as very matter of fact. This is what's going to happen.
Right.
It's not a proposal.
No, it's like this
like
is,
a
this is what's
declaration.
going to happen.
Yeah.
And then she totally stands up for herself.
Yeah.
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 Says, like, you know, I have hopes and dreams and ambitions. I am still working on that stuff. You can't just expect me to just drop everything when your plans change.
And he kind
Yeah.
of tries to convince her, and she just says flat out, like, I don't want to marry you.
yeah.
And she's very clear.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Like earlier in the movie on the phone, I think maybe he says, I love you. And she goes, I know. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
you
Very
think
Han
about
Solo.
like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
the
I'm
Han
like,
Solo
was
kind
George
of like,
Lucas watching this
That's
movie?
6 years before The Empire Strikes Back.
well, because like in Empire, they kind of reclaimed that as romantic. And
Yeah.
here it's like, that's not romantic.
Yeah. Definitely not.
That's
not
like your
romantic.
first sign early on. That, like, this
Yeah.
relationship is not one for this world.
Yeah,
Definitely.
But also that as you know, as this is all happening, I think the first real thing that we find out about Jess in the movie is that she has just found out she's pregnant.
Exactly.
And wants an abortion.
And
Yeah.
knows right away too.
Yeah, I mean that the timing of this is really important because this movie comes out in 1974. Roe v. Wade, R.I.P. It's passed in 1973. So
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Although this is a Canadian film, but
That's-
still probably
that's true.
part of the
yeah,
zeitgeist of the time.
It's,
Yeah,
it's a Canadian film, but you know they say it's like upstate New York or
Yeah.
whatever. There's
Yeah.
all these American
Yeah.
flags everywhere.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I don't know what the
No, but I'm sorry,
what
your
the
point's a good
policies
one.
in Canada
Yeah,
are
right.
exactly, but it's still like this is a time when we're finally we're having this conversation, and parts of the world are finally legalizing this. So it's really incredible that she is also seen as she's our protagonist. Like she is seen as in the right here.
Yeah.
And I think presenting a woman knowing what she wants and being able to outright say to her shitty partner, like to actually verbalize it, I think is really important, because I feel like we were still in a time where people were having abortions. Even before Roe v. Wade, people were having abortions. But to actually speak it aloud in a definitive way, I think was still really, really challenging. And I think remains really challenging for a lot of people going through this. So I think that's what's so important to this, is to bring her character as somebody, as you said, who can assert herself in multiple ways.
Yeah,
Totally.
Yeah,
it's very pointed.
Also, in that this is in a film not only directed but also written by a man.
That's true. I feel like this is an incredibly we've talked about how this is an incredibly progressive film, and I think that I'm very impressed by the fact that it was written by a man in the 1970s.
Yeah,
and I don't think you really feel that much.
Exactly. Yeah, it's written by Roy Moore, directed and produced by Bob Clark. Also, while we're talking about credits, just want to give a little shout out to the composer Carl Zittrer.
Yep.
Yes, composer of those great piano scratches, atonal harmonies, things
Love
like
it.
that. Like during that piano recital scene, I couldn't really tell if it was like, supposed to be a totally tonal piece and he was just really missing the mark, or if it was like a Schoenberg style atonal.
I definitely, a podcast I listened to of people who I think are not really musicians was like, well, this guy's bad at piano. He actually sucks. And I was like, they might be right. He might suck. But when I watch it, I'm like, that's what the piece is supposed to sound like.
I felt the same way. I was like, I think in
Same.
some ways it's intentional.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that his performance, I think, could be read that he's really distracted.
Yeah.
Or that he's fucking up.
I totally read it that way.
Okay.
I like the expression on his face. That actor, by the way, Keir Dullea,
Dullea.
the Space Baby from 2001.
Yeah.
I saw it as like he is bombing and he knows it.
Well, and you know what? You're right, because the judges are kind of going
their
like,
faces,
yeah,
Yeah.
Kind of like shifting in their chair and
I mean,
stuff.
maybe he likes his 12-tone music, but they don't.
Yeah, maybe it's all like the selection of the piece.
Yeah,
that could be. Yeah, I love that we're spending this much time breaking this down.
Well, I think it's
not breaking
important.
the piano down.
That's true. But I think it's important as musicians to acknowledge that the person that is set up through most of this movie as the villain is a music student.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Good point. Very good.
Disgruntled.
Point. I love that. Yeah, no. Why don't we
hold up? Sorry, I had one more thing on the
Go
list.
for it.
Okay.
Yeah. But since we were talking about the music and how that influences the atmosphere of this movie, like on one end of the spectrum of horror movie scores, you have something like this, and on the other end, you have something like Bernard Herrmann's score for Psycho, where it's just, it's very in your face. I mean, that's also quite atonal, but synchronized famously to the action. Black Christmas is 1 year before Jaws as well, where there's a lot of similar things going on in the score. But I think that that's another thing that like adds to that patience. I don't want to even call it slowness, but the patience of Black Christmas. But another takeaway that I got from that is that I feel like this, whether it be the score or just the general atmosphere, the tone of the movie, I feel like it does a great job of conveying what the vibe would really be like with a series of murders happening around Christmas time. I feel like in a lot of horror movies, you get this stark contrast between the nighttime and the daytime scenes. I don't feel like there's as much of that in this movie. They feel not one and the same, but they feel organically connected. Even in spite of the murder that happens in the opening chapter of the movie, there are scenes after that where, I feel like, well, if I didn't know that had just happened, I could be watching The Holdovers.
That's true. Like that movie does also have like a kind of grimy kind of warmth to it, the sort of look of it, but that's kind of comforting and it's strange kind of way. But and this idea of murder during Christmas, it feels like an aberration, so it's kind of like this extra sort of like squeeze to it, I guess. Amps it up. I just want to like talk also about the sound of the film, like in addition to just the score, but there's something about the way the movie plays with silence and just kind of noise,
Yeah.
just loudness, like loud noises. Early on in the film, there's that first phone call.
Yeah.
Like, and this is a movie that is like about phone calls that, that's really what sort of gets this whole thing started.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
man, speaking on the phone, saying really nasty and disgusting things. When they're all gathered around, which kind of, again, feels very Christmas-like, you
Yeah.
gather around with your
Totally,
friends
yeah.
and the camera is just panning,
I love that.
scanning their faces.
Because they're silent and
Yeah.
he's just
Yeah.
going.
And he's just going, and it's just like this feeling of like surrounding them, encircling them
Mhm.
in terror,
Mhm.
like in this way that should feel like familial holiday stuff of like,
Yeah.
we're all gathered around the tree. Later on in the film too, everyone gathers on a search
search party, yeah,
exactly.
and they find a dead 13-year-old girl and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just like all of that at the end of the movie too, when after Olivia finds out that, not Olivia.
Just
Yes.
I always do that. I always kind of like go to the
I do
actors'
that too.
names.
Yeah,
too,
yeah, we're there with you on that.
But when she finds out, calls are coming in from inside the house or whatever, and she's kind of skulking around,
Mhm.
I love that scene.
that last stretch of the movie, maybe 25, 30 minutes of the movie, really,
It goes back to atmosphere, like you said.
Yeah.
I think the atmosphere it's in such great control of what it's trying to make you feel.
but then it just explodes. Like
Yeah.
right when she's kind of skulking around trying to find this guy or, see if
Whatever,
he's there. She opens the door, she sees Margot Kidder and Andrea Martin.
Yep.
I knew I was going to make this mistake too. I always say Andrea Arnold instead of Martin. But like she sees him dead, and then suddenly like Billy, starts chasing her, and it is just like suddenly the soundtrack just sounds like someone banging against a wooden cupboard or something.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like banging the door open and shut. It's like really intense and just very frightening, as she scurries downstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is one of the things that just stays with me about this movie is how effectively scary these phone calls and the Billy character who's voiced by Nick Mancuso.
Yeah.
I mean, again, grade A voice acting. Like this is some terrifying shit.
horrifying.
From
Yeah.
what I hear, he did some like weird stuff in the sound booth.
I've heard
Yeah.
that.
Where he like stood on his head.
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
what I
Yeah.
heard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like, really.
Like to compress his larynx or something.
I mean, come on, man. Like commit to the bit. Like I don't know.
He
like
sells it. It would be so easy for these to be silly.
yes,
Yeah.
and they're not.
And they're like, yeah, it's right there on the edge of silly.
Yeah.
It's close enough to silly that it just makes it really work. I think.
Which is
it makes
exactly-
it that much scarier.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where horror is
Yeah.
like best. It's like right on that edge of like, this could be ridiculous.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? In some ways, the ending makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like when everyone gets up and leaves, and just like
Like
leaves
she'll
her
be
to
fine.
She'll be okay.
Yeah.
Let her fall
Yeah.
asleep, whatever.
Yeah.
We'll check in the morning. It's just like, no.
But as soon as that, the camera starts tracking through the rest of the house, you're like, oh, this isn't over.
Mhm.
And like, well, the movie's over, but the story it follows is not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They drop a little thing too at the ending. John Saxon's character, Lieutenant Fuller.
Fuller.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes. Lieutenant Fuller says like he calls after every killing. And
Yeah.
then as the camera sort of like floats through the house again, like a ghost sort of haunting.
Mhm.
And then the camera tracks back and you see that one cop smoking a cigarette or something on the porch.
Yeah.
And then you hear the phone ring,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah.
oh shit.
We're not done.
Did she just die?
Yeah.
And then that's the note that you end on. It kind of reminds me of No Country for Old Men, like right at the end
Yeah.
when
Then I woke up.
Anton Chigurh like checks his boots after
Yeah.
he leaves the
Oh,
house.
right.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
You know?
good
Yeah,
point.
yeah. That kind of, it's like you don't see her get killed,
But
but, it's
you
kind of
know.
like you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And that like it's just a sick feeling in your gut.
Not-
It's the little details that are captured. Yeah.
That's
I
great.
didn't-
The implication.
I didn't think of that scene while watching Black Christmas, but I did think of another little detail from No Country for Old Men. That's another movie that has some really, really eerie moments of a phone ringing.
The phone call that keeps going
Yeah.
when
Well, there's a scene in the middle when Llewellyn is trying to call the reception
That's the one
desk
I'm
at the
thinking
hotel
of.
he's seeing.
Oh, right.
so
There's this-
good.
And then
There's
the
this,
shadows like under the door. and
Right.
stuff.
There's this
Yeah,
amazing
yeah.
little detail there, though, where like he's calling and there's no pickup on the other end. But if you are listening very carefully, you can hear the other phone ringing.
Yes.
It's faint,
Yes.
but you can hear it there.
I know
Absolutely.
exactly the scene.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful scene.
We've
Yeah.
Incredible editing,
Yeah.
might I add.
One of our old guests, Idris Goodwin, talks about pulling up scenes on YouTube, like songs.
Yeah.
That I have pulled that scene up many times. 'cause-
Yeah. I've done that too.
Yeah. Oh man, it's just so good.
Yeah. We're comparing things now. I think
Totally.
we'll officially call it Comparison Corner now.
Do you guys mind if I start this one?
Go for it.
All right, cool. I think it's my turn to use an expression that Julian, I think you've probably used the most on our podcast, but I know Madeline, you've also invoked,
Ooh, yay.
which is go with me on this. I would like to draw a comparison to a much more recent, well-regarded horror film, and that would be Ari Aster's Midsommar.
Okay.
On the surface, I do think that these movies are very different, but some spoiler alerts here. Like if you've not seen Midsommar, just skip ahead about a minute or so and then keep listening, listener. But also go see Midsommar because it's really good. I think that Midsommar has a pretty fun take, I think, on the final girl trope.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, the Florence Pugh character, Dani, like she's the last one standing in more ways than one in that movie. But I like that, like, she's kind of gets absorbed into this world that's responsible for all the horror and seemingly happy to do so. I kind of like that. But I think the bigger connection between Black Christmas and Midsommar is, so Ari Aster has talked about how Midsommar at its core is a breakup movie.
Yeah.
I think that Black Christmas is a breakup movie. And I think that they operate similarly in that, you know, Jessie feels trapped by this bad relationship, and especially now that she's pregnant with Peter's child, in a similar way that I think, you know, the Dani character in Midsommar also kind of feels trapped because she has this checked out boyfriend, but it's like the only connection that she's left with. And that it takes some foreign, unsettling, horrific force to finally purge these two characters from their crappy boyfriends. And it's also this very horrific force that I think gives them the perfect cover and the ability to kill them with plausible deniability. And so they're very different movies in many respects.
I really like this.
But
this is a good comparison for sure.
Yeah, well done.
But I think, you know, Black Christmas, twisted breakup movie, the way that Midsommar is.
Twisted breakup movie, and also, I mean, Midsommar is a kind of comedy satire of toxic masculinity in a certain kind of way, the way that we're talking about Peter as well. And, you know, ineffective, dullard boyfriends is kind of like a slasher trope too, in a certain kind of way. And there's something interesting about Peter when we think that he is the killer for so much of this movie, you know, or at least they're building it up. He's such like a bad boyfriend that you kind of like wish you hope that he's the killer.
I think that's kind of the movie's whole thing, is they're like, this guy sucks so much that wouldn't it be great if you could hate him?
Just really
hate him.
If you could just really hate him. Yeah, exactly.
Even when he's like breaking through the window into that basement, like I had a gut feeling like it's not him.
Yeah, I think we'll get
and
it.
it's like, there he is.
That scene is so effective, though. It's like surprisingly effective. I know what you mean, though.
I know, but it's like, if you're not the killer, like, what are you doing? Dude, you're breaking the
breaking into this window. I know. I love it all, man. I think it's so well
But
done.
speaking of the scene where he goes into the basement, I mean, as soon as Jess goes into the basement, Dougie was like, you know, barbarian. Like when you're thinking of these kind of like basement horror movies, like I think basement is a trope of like basements are scary.
Yeah.
My basement was scary.
I mean, Home Alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There we go.
Home Alone, not a horror movie, but the basement is very scary in Home Alone.
For those 30 seconds, it became a horror movie.
Basements are very scary. And I think, you know, Dougie was like, well, Barbarian is like the most recent example of like, well, let's make a basement like the scariest we can make a basement.
Yeah.
Pretty scary basement in this movie. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And it's just like clattering around. You can't find the lights anywhere.
And I'm like, why do they have all this crap in this sorority house? Like in the basement, in the attic? Like, it feels like the kind of stuff that like an 80-year-old couple would put in their basement.
It's just like years of like
predecessor to Mrs. Mac.
Exactly.
Yeah. And of course, you know, any like final act of a horror movie that's set in a basement is going to make me think of The Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, speaking of like progressive female-led horror films.
Yeah.
and also just that sense at the end of both of those movies that like, oh, there's a resolute ending, but it's not really over. But yeah, it was hard for me to draw any like full scale comparisons between Black Christmas and other films, with one exception that I think we're going to get into pretty shortly. But there was a lot of like little things that I could connect to other horror movies that were made close in time to it. And I mean, even though aesthetically, like on the surface, these movies couldn't be more different, there were a few things about Black Christmas that made me think of Alien.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I actually was thinking about that a little bit.
Yeah. And Alien comes a little later, and I think disregarding the fact that it has a creature that does not exist in reality, that is Alien you can call a slasher movie.
Certainly.
You can.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we talked, maybe this is what you're going to say, but on our Alien episode, which is a very early episode for us, we talked about something that's so effective as the suspense building throughout Alien.
Yeah, I mean, the suspense and the sense that like the beginning of that movie is pretty quiet.
Yeah.
And even once kills have happened in that movie, there are still some very quiet moments. But also the way that at the beginning of Black Christmas, the way that Jess blends into the crowd is a lot like Ripley.
Yeah, she's really not like introduced as the protagonist.
Yeah,
necessarily.
Correct.
Yeah, it's not till like a half an hour in that it dawns on you that like, oh, this person is going to be leading the movie.
I feel like you kind of get the sense Barb is going to lead the movie.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Which I wouldn't have minded in some respects.
Yeah, she's cool.
I think she's really fun. Yeah.
She is really fun. I love, this is the Margot Kidder character. I mean, when she's like feeding alcohol to that kid at the reception or whatever.
That maybe notwithstanding.
Also, the thing she says to the cop at the police station.
Oh, that too.
Oh, we never talked about fellatio. The new exchange. They really make a meal out of that in this movie.
They really do.
Like they really like run with it for a long time.
Without spoiling it, that's yet another connection that you can make to the Hateful Eight.
Yes.
If you know, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know.
But yeah, and there's probably like around 8 people living in that house at the beginning of the movie.
There you go.
Yeah,
I
don't think they're a very hateful bunch though.
No, they seem perfectly. Like they mostly get along. Yeah.
Yeah, but then the other thing that made me think of Alien watching Black Christmas is not that this comes up in the most conventional way in Alien, but the pregnancy theme.
Sure.
Yep.
But it's also a haunted house.
Also true.
It's a real haunted house movie.
Yeah.
Alien is.
Yeah. And the fact that, there is a character who is, directly stated to be pregnant in Black Christmas, and this movie mostly takes place in an enclosed space. Yeah. Well, layers upon layers there.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How about you, man? Any comparison you want to draw?
Yeah.
I have like 2 sort of like loose comparisons, because this is unquestionably like prototypical slasher material. Like, and some people will sort of like label it as the first slasher, and in many ways that's pretty correct. I mean, it certainly is a sort of template for modern slasher films, and in its build. There is another film that came a few years earlier called Bay of Blood.
I don't know this one.
I haven't heard of it.
It's an Italian film by Mario Bava. We're going to get to Carpenter in a little bit.
Yeah.
But like October for me is always like my time to check back in with John Carpenter movies and Mario Bava movies.
Spooky season. Yeah.
Yes. Spooky season. And he has, he's kind of like credited with being the sort of like introducing some of the giallo elements with this movie called Blood and Black Lace earlier that kind of almost plays like Scream or something, where it's like all of these people in a fashion house in Italy, and then they're being picked off one by one, and then eventually it's kind of like a mystery of who is the one killing. And a big thing about giallo is kind of like this amateur detective thing going on. That is not really the case with most slashers. Most of the time, who the slasher is in slashers.
It's made pretty obvious.
Yeah. Bay of Blood has a little bit of both. Its foot in both, where Bay of Blood is basically a slasher that involves this family trying to sort of like fight over the inheritance of a rich heiress that just died.
Yeah.
So it's almost plotted like a screwball comedy, but it's like a by
comedy
way
of manners
slasher
or
film.
something. Yeah.
Kind Hearts and Coronets kind of comes to
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hysterical, the different turns that it takes, and reminds me a little bit of like a Coen Brothers film. But then also in the middle of this movie, there's like these college kids, I guess, that are like looking to have sex, find a house nearby, and it just happens to be the house where like a lot of these killings are happening.
How
and then
inconvenient.
Well,
Yeah,
you,
how
you
inconvenient.
mentioned the Coen Brothers. That makes me think of in the middle of Fargo when Steve Buscemi's character, decides to hook up with that woman in Shep's apartment.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, get the fuck out of here.
it's just this random
Shep, what are you doing? I was
tangent.
banging that broad.
Just like tossing her, exactly, tossing Steve Buscemi across the room.
Hitting him with the belt. Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
But like this movie has like the POV shots.
Yeah.
It's got all the stalking going on,
Yeah.
and it really, is something to check out. I would recommend,
Cool.
as another sort of prototype of slasher films.
Sweet.
Nice.
And then, we'll talk about Carpenter in a minute.
Well, speaking of this early era of slasher films, I was just looking this up just to answer a question for myself. So, Black Christmas was released in Canada on October 11th, 1974. Now, it's already come up that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out the same year. Does anybody want to guess what date?
Was it October 11th?
Yes.
All right.
It was
my goodness.
October 11th, 1974, but I believe that was direct to the US.
By the way, we've mentioned Texas Chainsaw Massacre multiple times. I do think that's the greatest horror film ever made.
I mean,
wow.
that is an incredible horror film. I
It
think.
is
yeah.
a
It
is.
freaky movie.
That
I'll
is
give
a
you that, yeah.
grueling experience.
And
Yeah.
not
I
without,
mean-
points for comparison to Black Christmas too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of cacophony,
Mhm.
I mean
Totally.
that is a suffocating,
Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of movie.
The last thing I'm just going to say, I want to put this out there. I did not bring this up because I kind of thought you were going to go with this one, Julian.
Huh.
Peeping Tom.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
this is, Peeping Tom, very interesting film from 1960, Michael Powell, but I think was one of the pioneers of POV and killer. And I can't help but think of Peeping Tom when I think of Black Christmas.
Also a movie that's very progressive for its time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just wanted to give that a little bit of oxygen.
Yeah. I would love to cover that movie someday. That's a fascinating movie.
Also feels like a prototype for Giallo.
And on the surface level, even though the content is pretty different, I mean, there's like mostly details of the cinematography in Black Christmas that made me think a lot of The Shining. Like certain shot, like dollies in and zooms and stuff like that.
It's a very competently made film.
Yeah.
Like it really is.
the
But-
craft
yeah.
on display is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, because it's also not show-offy about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great way of putting
It's
it.
just
yeah.
like it just really sucks you in, and you are in the hands of a master and you don't even know it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, big time.
And this idea too of like a camera having a mind of its own, that is so The Shining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like particularly that shot. I think, James, you referred to it earlier where Jess opens the door and sees the bodies of Barb and I'm trying to remember the other
Phil.
character.
Phil.
Barb and Phil, just both there. I mean, that felt very much like a shot from The Shining to me. Like that scene in the end when Shelley Duvall's opening all those doors.
Oh, and like coming back to fellatio.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, that has been Comparison Corner.
Yeah.
Kind of. Because we're going to keep that rolling with this question.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, when watching Black Christmas, I think it's very hard to not think of its more successful successor, which we've already talked a little bit about before, which is John Carpenter's Halloween. It was released 4 years later to, as pretty much anybody listening to this would know, enormous popularity and influence. And I think just considering all of the similarities and slasher genre tropes that both of these films either play with or establish in terms of like their plot and like the narrative arc, and I would say visual style, I was curious to ask you guys, because we've all seen Halloween,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Is there something that you think Black Christmas kind of does more effectively for your sensibilities as a movie lover than Halloween, and then maybe vice versa? Do you think Halloween does something a little bit more effectively than Black Christmas?
I mean, I think something that's a major thing that's different is the fact that part of the mystery of this film is that we don't know who the killer is. Like, that's a big driving plot point of the film is them trying to track down the killer, and we don't know. We see his POV, but we're like, oh, we don't know anything about this person. We don't know their identity. Is it Peter or blah, blah, blah. Whereas Halloween, like, it's kind of on the flip side of that, where you're like, well, you're similarly introduced to the killer very early on, but you learn way more about him.
In many respects,
in Halloween. I mean, you don't know that much of his backstory beyond like the very beginning,
right? No, but you have like Donald Pleasance's character kind of telling you a lot about him, and by the time when you see someone get killed, like you know who
you
it
have,
is.
Exactly. There's the mystery of who is this killer is not part of it,
right?
And I don't think that one is more effective than the other necessarily. I think it probably comes down to personal preference or just the craft of the individual movies, but I think that is a major difference between these films.
Yeah. But also both films do kind of present that main killer as the boogeyman, essentially.
That's true.
Yeah.
You know, and Halloween, one thing that it does separate from is that idea of knowing who the killer is. That becomes like a staple of every slasher film after that. Your Freddy Krueger's and your
Jason.
Jason.
After the first one.
Yeah.
The original Friday the 13th actually is a little bit more like Black Christmas.
With the mother. And
Do
you guys know the origin of Halloween?
Let's talk about it.
Yes, because
give it to us, James.
There is a story about Bob Clark was going to direct a film that John Carpenter wrote. This movie never ended up happening in the late 70s. Carpenter was a huge fan of Black Christmas, and he asked Bob Clark, like, I know you said you'd never make a sequel to Black Christmas, but if you did, what would it be? And Clark said, well, it would basically be Billy was caught and institutionalized, and then the following fall he escapes from that institution and stalks a new group of sorority girls, and I was going to call it Halloween.
Yeah.
And then Carpenter sort of ran with this, changed it a little bit to basically be a film about a man who escapes an institution that stalks babysitters, which is kind of ironic because the original script of Black Christmas was about babysitters.
Interesting.
Wow.
And the reason why they switched it was basically Bob Clark kind of wanted to get kids out of the picture.
Yeah. It's like, let's at least have like these women are adults.
Yeah.
They're young adults.
That's the other thing about this movie that's really great is that these women in college, they're not like...
They're like sexually liberated women.
They are adult women with they're just
the
real
posters
people.
all over the
they're
place.
Not like born yesterday.
No,
kind of
totally,
Especially that's where slashers tend to go.
Yeah, there's not like a naivete to any of these women.
Yeah.
They're very competent.
Which is something that I think kind of Halloween suffers from.
Yeah, totally.
A little bit.
Yeah. I might get a little bit to that when I share my feelings. Yeah.
That's kind of a deficiency, I feel like, when it comes to like what Black Christmas does much better than Halloween is that these feel like
paint these as like more well-rounded characters, and not even characters that like have aged better. I think someone might try to make that argument, but no, like in the moment, they're more interesting, like
instantly.
And I think we care about them a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even in the
they feel like real people.
Even in the like 5 or 6 minutes that we get with Claire, I feel we're like, no, not her. Like, she's like seems really sweet, and she's the one who like wants to maybe placate Barb a little bit more, and you're like, not her.
I also love the detail that when her dad comes searching for her, I mean, doesn't come down to one moment; it's a general trait. But that, it's pretty clear from how he talks about her that Claire has grown up in a
repressed household.
Household. Yeah, that that's a very buttoned up life, and that she's had a chance at personal liberation in college. There's just the irony of that, like, her father is worrying about her being exposed to men and drugs and drinking and stuff like that. And then, and then Mrs. Mack is assuring him, it's like, oh, no. Like, I forget the exact line, but it's like, oh, yes, like Claire's a good girl.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like with Black Christmas, these details is kind of what makes it feel like it has more in common with real life.
Yeah.
One thing that I do love about Halloween is that it feels like a fable. Like it feels like a legend or something.
Yeah.
It's everything is stripped down to its like bare minimum of like telling this spooky story in the dark.
Yeah.
There's this campfire story, and that sort of atmosphere, it does borrow a little bit from the spooky haunted house stuff from Black Christmas, but it really expands on it and almost presents it as if it's like classical cinema, this idea of just kind of like this cheap exploitation, babysitter murderer kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's like presented as if it's like a tale as old as time.
Right.
And that's part of what I like about Halloween as well. Also, there's less of the sense of a central house.
Sure.
It moves around a little bit more in settings. I mean, there are focal points, but
it feels like it's set in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
and
of
not in one
Haddonfield.
house.
Haddonfield, Illinois, which I believe is a fictional town.
Absolutely.
Like, I think that's part of what strikes me about that movie. Like, as you said very eloquently, James, that it feels like a fable, and that like it, when you have a movie that claims a title that if it didn't do it, some other movie surely was going to later on. I feel like it earns the name by having by having a story that sets itself up to be canonical. And but also with Halloween, and this is we just talked about it a few episodes ago when we discussed Alex Garland's Civil War, that like sometimes the like developing a character less can give you more to project onto them. And so that like I think that Halloween strikes a nice balance between what you do and don't know about many of the characters. But another like huge distinction between Halloween and Black Christmas is the use of music in both films. That like Halloween is, maybe it's not there every moment, but it's a little more sumptuous with music, and that you have that great one of my favorite uses.
Racing.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite uses of 5/4 time too, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Very good example.
I want to jump off of that a little bit because I think what Halloween does really effectively is I think it generalizes in this really fascinating way that I think makes it more copyable. We just talked a little bit about how these characters in Black Christmas, you feel like you really get to know them. And so there's some sort of emotional weight that happens if they're in danger or if they die. And I feel like because the characters in Halloween are not as well developed, I think it actually is more of a proto-slasher. Because I think there's a little bit of emotional distance that you can create with them. And I think people that like that movie go because they can see that and not have that emotional attachment.
Right.
And you were talking about the music just now too. I totally agree. And I think that the music is kind of in keeping with that same thing. It's giving you something like really, really direct. You talked about Psycho before too, which is, as you said, very appropriately, it's atonal, but you can still hum the themes of Psycho.
You can, yeah.
And you
The way
can't do
those
that with
chords
Black
build.
Christmas. Like I couldn't even begin to do that right now.
Yeah.
That was actually pretty good right there. Yeah.
I mean, Halloween,
it's an earworm.
Halloween gives you a challenge. Halloween gives you a challenge with humming it in all the different key changes that happen.
That's true. It
with that
does
same
modulate.
motif.
Yeah. But I kind of like that these movies are a flip on each other in that respect. I think there's something really primal about Halloween that makes it a little bit more inviting as something to copy.
Right. I really like this kind of read also with what you're saying, the directness of the music. The directness and the vagueness kind of becomes a comment on maybe the audience's bloodlust or something.
Yes.
Like you just kind of want to see, the chase and then, the ultimate kill and all these things. Like it kind of like builds up your anticipation for it and your sort of taste for it and sort of like your desire for it or something.
Right.
And then that is reflected in the killer, the shape, Michael Myers basically being supernatural. I mean, by the end of the movie, he's unkillable, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And there's something to that where it's just like, you can't stop him because you can't stop the boogeyman.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know.
I think that like the portrayal of Michael Myers in Halloween, it's often cited as a predecessor to the original Terminator.
Sure.
I mean, like horror feels like a weird word for that movie, but there are things about it that really do
for
feel
sure.
Well, the
very-
pursuit,
the suit,
Yeah.
but also like the sense that like main character goes to the police for help in the middle of the movie and they kind of can't help.
Right.
Um,
That's another great slasher trope is like inept cops, you know, like, or ineffective cops. You know,
and
the giggling policemen at the
at the front desk. Yeah.
In Black Christmas, you have a spectrum there because, I mean, the John Saxon character is very competent.
Right.
Yes.
As opposed to, what's the name of the underling?
Nash.
Nash.
Yeah. Because he's the guy, I mean, well, he kind of bucks up at the end. Like he does
but
rise.
He still messes it up.
He messes it up, but
he literally says the killer is calling.
It's like Saxon tells him, like, don't tell her the killer's in the house, and Nash is like, just killer's in the house.
Yeah, and it comes out of a moment where he wants
to do.
Like he wants to do better, but I mean that failing is like coming from at least a better place,
an honest place of attempting competency.
Yeah,
attempting, yes. But I was just thinking that if Saxon was the one to make this call, I think he would have been able to convince her to walk out of the house without going to look for Barb and Phil.
I want to mention just one last thing, just more on a technical side. They kind of operate appropriately for each film. Is the POV is more handheld in Black Christmas.
Yes, that's true.
In Halloween, we got the Steadicam.
Yeah.
And the Steadicam, I think, matches the vibe of Michael Myers much more. As you said, kind of like the boogeyman, supernatural, kind of gliding.
He's floating.
Yeah, gliding from one place to the next. Nothing gets in this guy's way. Yeah. Whereas I think with Black Christmas, it's like
this is just a regular guy. This could be anybody.
Exactly. Yeah. And I kind of like that. I think it's kind of neat.
It's interesting too. The POV shots in Black Christmas, they had to create like a special shoulder rig that's very complicated because there are shots
climbing.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are shots where he's climbing ladders, climbing over a terrace outside and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like all of these shots that require the operator to be pretty, mobile and physical
and like on their shit.
Yeah. Whereas a Steadicam is like a much bulkier kind of situation.
Yeah. And it's also like when you think about how the killers are portrayed in both films, that I mean there are elements of the unseen with both of them to a greater degree in Black Christmas because you never get a good look at Billy.
You just get his eye.
You just get his eye. You hear a little bit of him, and then in Halloween, well, you know what Michael Myers looks like. Kind of, because he's wearing the mask the whole time. So there's that mystery too of like who's behind the mask. And even though, spoiler alert for Halloween, you do get a look behind it.
Quick glimpse.
Doesn't reveal that much still. Yeah.
It's actually kind of unsatisfying, I find.
I can't remember exactly. I know it's been a minute since I watched Halloween.
Yeah.
It's a good rewatch. Yeah, it's going, Both really quality movies, Halloween and Black Christmas.
Seriously, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So we've talked a little bit about Peter and how he is a red herring in this movie. And I think that he's kind of a classic example of that because he is Lieutenant Fuller's top suspect. And it seems like we as audience members are kind of meant to question whether or not he's the killer throughout the entire film. But then in the final moments of the film, it's revealed that the killer still lives despite Peter's death. So why do you guys think this is so effective in creating suspense or maybe even shock? And do you feel like as a modern viewer, you were able to spot this as a red herring kind of early on? And did that change the impact for you guys at all?
I actually feel like the way that they set Peter up is pretty effective.
Yeah.
In that, yes, he is a very toxic guy. I don't think there's any question about that. But there's this kernel of like when you're young and something doesn't really go your way in a way where you're like, oh my God, is that supposed to mean more? I actually think it's like really well done because it feels natural for someone who's in college, someone who's a music student, probably, has a lot of insecurities about like what type of life they might have pursuing a passion. And for that all to kind of crack into something. Yeah. Potentially, like I kind of like it.
Yeah.
I do think towards the end, I'm with you, Julian. I kind of saw it coming, but it was up until the end.
Yeah.
That it really, the movie made me go, I don't know, maybe it is him. I don't know.
That's, I think, the constant thing is you might kind of clock it as like, well, this is too easy. But then the movie is kind of constantly just like putting in one more hint.
Yeah.
The breaking of the glass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
that's-
get in.
It
You're like,
is so
what
weird
the-
that he would even like look in the basement for her.
Yeah.
Like that kind of makes no sense.
Totally.
I-
yeah,
yeah, I
it's just
think-
like gas.
I'm with everything that you both just said. I think you're putting it really well. And that, like, for most of the movie, I'd say around the first half, I did not suspect at all that Peter would be the killer. But the first scene that made me wonder is like after he and Jess have had that fight and he runs out of the house, but then hangs out behind that tree, continuing to watch the house.
Mhm.
That's when I started to wonder. It's like, oh, is something going on here? Even then, I still kind of suspected that he would be like a third party presence to Jess and this killer. And then I started to wonder too. Like, I think that scene, the basement confrontation, that was the period of the movie where I, for a minute there, solidly thought like, oh, I guess the idea here is that Peter is the killer.
I love
And-
how it quickly cuts away too as
Yeah.
he's getting close. It's
Yes.
like it cuts to the cop cars. You don't really see what happens. I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah.
no. That's a good point too, because it actually eschews the typical kind of suspense you'd get in that type of scene.
Exactly.
You don't get like the final blowout between them. You see the aftermath, which I thought was another moment of subverting what another horror movie would typically do. Like you don't even get like a swell of music when you find it out. It's very just direct and plain spoken there.
Yeah, that push-in shot.
He just like
Yeah.
walks past the camera,
Yeah.
like so you don't even get a good view of whether or not he lunges at her
Mhm.
or if
Mhm.
he's walking towards her kind of calmly.
Yeah, like what
Yeah.
Like,
what
you don't
is
know.
it that kind of instigates her to actually go after him? Is it just that she at
She's
this point
scared.
is scared and convinced that it's him?
Mhm.
Or does he like instigate something?
Yeah.
Which again, like speaks to the sort of strength of the movie's, commitment to uncertainty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Throughout the entire film, like the way you build up Peter as possibly the killer, the prime suspect.
Yeah.
We're talking about him kind of like, oh, I wish he was the killer,
Yeah.
because that's more comforting,
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
just imagine him as a killer. Before this film was open in the US, Warner Brothers was going to put it out, and they had asked Bob Clark to reshoot the ending and make it more clear that Peter was the killer,
Mm.
because it was like an easier kind
Yeah,
of ending.
It ties it
Mhm.
up more.
It ties it up. It's just a closed book, and he refused to do it.
Good.
And, I guess they just said, okay, fine. But, because
Stuck to his guns.
yeah,
He called their bluff.
Yeah.
called their bluff. and they're like,
Exactly,
okay,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And the ending, when it turns out that it's not Peter, it's actually, Billy lurking in the shadows. It's just so much more unsettling.
That's
Yeah.
the scariest thing about this movie. And also, if there was an ending where it was clear that it was Peter, but he got away, like kind of in Halloween, like, oh,
Mhm.
we know who it was, but he's still out there.
Mm,
That also, though, feels cleaner. Like, it's the
Mhm.
fact that not only is Billy still out there and still capable of killing and probably is going to kill Jess immediately,
Mhm.
but also the fact that we still know nothing about him.
Yeah.
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 And the fact that Peter, unfortunately, is innocent. So,
Right.
like, something that was coming to my mind was that most likely Jess is about to get killed. And in that final moment, she's going to realize that she has killed Peter,
Mm.
even though
Dark,
he
wow.
like did not deserve it. Like,
Yeah.
she's going to know that as she's being killed by the actual killer. She's like, well, I thought it was this guy that I at one point cared
Yo.
about.
That just makes it so
It's so sad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that hit
No,
me
you're so
earlier. And I was
right.
like, well, I
It's
have to
so
talk about it
true.
because it's so sad.
Wow.
But I like to think that, if like there's an agency to him and as he goes into this house and stalks its inhabitants, but there's also a sense that he kind of waits for them.
Yeah.
Like he looks for moments when they're not in like the big wide open spaces of the houses.
He's more opportunistic.
Yeah, he's more opportunistic, and also like if he potentially knows that now there is a cop sitting on the front porch, and maybe that Jess is capable of self-defense, maybe there's a hesitation.
Maybe, but I
Yeah.
don't think in this moment Jess is capable of self-defense
No.
because she's fully unconscious.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but maybe she's the type who would like wake up at the right moment and then be capable of self-defense at that time. Maybe it's that's the more optimistic.
I was going to say that's the very optimist.
That's the more hopeful reading. Yeah,
Madeline, your read on it is dark and bleak, but I kind of like it. No,
I think it's
I'm
true.
glad you brought it up. You're right. Yeah,
yeah, and like if the movie had gone with the notion that it was Peter the whole time, I mean, I was starting to think during that basement confrontation scene, does he have like some kind of Norman Bates thing going on where he's like, there's two personalities?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that also, it feels like Billy kind of fits into that in general.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
With like
good point.
Yeah, the way that he's changing these voices. Like
Exactly.
it doesn't just feel like he's messing with them. Like
Yeah.
he legitimately sounds insane.
Yeah, and that was part of what led me to think it was not Peter, was that we don't really see him exhibiting that kind of behavior when he presents himself publicly. But maybe,
even as stressed as he is, like during his jury, like
Right.
it doesn't bring out something like that.
Yeah, and I certainly don't condone damaging a piano like he does.
Cool, guys. Why don't we get into some of our kind of notable details, some shout outs?
I said a little bit earlier about the dynamic between Mrs. Mack and Claire's father.
Yeah.
And there's just one scene as their prolonged interaction is going on where Mrs. Mack is sitting on the steps, and then Claire's father like just pokes his head up next to her to ask him something. And I forget exactly what the dialogue was, but at the moment when he goes away and she's left alone, for a moment there, I really thought she was going to jim the camera and just be, like look straight at the audience and say like, can you believe this guy or something like that?
She kind of has that moment in the mirror.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, but I'm with you. I wouldn't put it past Mrs. Mack. She's kind of the wild card of this movie.
Definitely.
She reminded me a lot of Carol Burnett in Annie.
Yeah, totally.
I want to call out two quick things. So the first of which is in that first phone call, I think one of the things that absolutely terrifies me about that is the way it ends. He is doing all these
It's like
voices,
he drops it.
and then he drops it and he says, in the plainest, flattest tone, I'm going to kill you. And then stop. Like, come on. Like,
that is terrifying.
It is terrifying. That to me is one of the things that has aged like fine wine about this movie is the phone calls and the voice work is so inspired and so effective for something to induce fear.
And they really draw you in. I mean, like this idea of the different voices and the different characters. Who is Agnes?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like you start kind of trying to sort of piece together what is this kind of yarn that he's, spinning
Yeah.
in these filthy, explosive phone calls. It's really, really effective stuff.
Yeah.
I just need to shout out that, Andrea Martin. At some point, I ran into this in the last couple of days that role of Phyllis was originally going to be Gilda Radner.
I heard that. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
really?
I guess she had SNL obligations.
Well, she got cast on
Yeah.
SNL, yeah, for the first season or something, and then dropped out like right at the last minute.
Yeah.
Oh, for the film, for Black Christmas.
No,
Or wait,
Gilda
sorry.
Radner was going to play this character.
Right, but
Yeah,
you're
she
saying
was
she was
cast.
attached to the movie but then dropped?
Yeah.
Because of SNL.
Because
of
obligations.
SNL.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to think maybe there's like an alternate possibility where, where the character of Phil was saying more like, "Oh, get this guy off the phone," something just a little more like that.
That's
But
good.
that actually brings up another thing we haven't mentioned is like the one of the things that makes the setting of this story a little ambiguous is the varying accents of the characters.
Oh, yeah.
It's all
Yeah, because it's
Canadian.
never really addressed the
Yeah.
fact that
Right,
Jess
Jess-
seems to be from England.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I kind of like that though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
who
it
was
doesn't
from
need to be
England?
addressed. Jess.
Yeah,
I
Jess.
think.
Yeah.
Oh,
just,
my bad.
It's
Yeah.
a little bit like those moments in.
Because you just get used to it.
You do.
You're like, she just sounds like that.
Yeah, no, but I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like those moments in the first Star Wars where Princess Leia suddenly sounds British. But although this is
That's
consistent,
right.
this is there's that difference there that this accent for Jess is consistent. But also there were like I can't remember exactly who, but a few characters at a few moments that like seem to have a bit of like a New York inflection. So I started wondering, is this supposed to be on like Long Island or something?
Yeah, it's like you said it's meant to be
It's
like
definitely-
upstate New York, even though it's
Yeah.
like filmed in Toronto.
Yeah.
Very, very Canadian. I mean, like there's like hockey in this movie.
Oh yeah.
It's all Canadian from like so many characters in this
Yeah.
are saying out and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I caught
Yeah.
that from Claire's boyfriend.
Yep.
I think he sounds
When he goes to the police station.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah.
very Canadian,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he is Art Hindle is Canadian. And so I think you really hear that.
I also want to mention this visual to me, the last phone call. The shot of Jess is through the slats in the staircase
Yeah.
That's
handrail.
right. Yeah.
Oh man, just like so effective. That's the moment to do that in the film. Everything is closing in, and it's just visually told beautifully. I love that.
But also after one of the kills, I forget which one it was, but that like immediately after, then there's a guy knocking on the door.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think a delivery man.
They do that
Yeah.
really well to be like, well, how did these people not hear it? It was like,
Yeah.
oh, because Miss Mac opened her gift and everyone cheered.
Yeah.
Or
the
you know,
carolers.
or the carolers. It's
Yeah.
like
yeah.
it's nicely set up that way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Another detail that I really like, something about, because what you're talking about, the person sort of knocking on the door, it kind of feels like a lot of the editing of this movie kind of has a deliberate pace to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there are these harsh transitions,
Yeah.
like these really sharp kind of like cuts into the next scene. And one in particular that sticks out is when they discover the body of the 13-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Yes.
mother screams,
Yeah.
but then it's an L cut with the audio of a phone ringing.
Yes.
You know, and so you see her like
totally.
open her mouth
Yeah.
screaming, but what you
Yeah.
hear is ring, 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 you know, and then it's, you know, another phone call.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
effective.
It cuts to Jess, you know, answering the phone.
Just like the match gut of death. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just jarring.
I
Yeah.
think the subplot of the 13-year-old is really interesting because it's like not really confirmed that it's actually related.
Yeah.
And uncertainty.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so once again, as you said, the uncertainty that this movie once again brings in, it made me, I mean, the last movie we talked about in an episode with several other movies was Searching,
Yeah.
which is, you know, another movie about like a missing child or like she's a teenager, but so is this one, you know, they're not that far apart. And it's got like these search party scenes where, you know, one, I think, jarring scene in this movie is when the two men from the search party like come knock on the door because they seem like oddly chipper, I think, which is
It was the
kind-
most Fargo scene.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're
This
kind of
movie.
like, oh, don't forget to lock your doors. You know, we found that.
I love Andrea
13-year-old.
Martin in that scene too,
Yeah.
where she's just like, you scare the crap out
Yeah.
of us. You know, and she just is just like laughing at him. It's like,
'Cause
you
it's
need
like
any help? And it's just like, no.
Because it's like, imagine going door to door with a gun being like, hey, we found a 13-year-old's body in the woods.
It's so wild.
One last thing is that this is one setting we haven't given any lip service to yet, which is that phone operating plant.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do always
Yeah.
enjoy.
Yeah. Definitely
Dude.
like the least horror movie setting in this.
Yeah.
You don't see that kind of thing in movies a lot. And
No,
it's
you
just, you know,
don't.
it's just cool just as an audience member to see like, ooh, look at all of these different
Yeah.
rows and
Well,
stacks.
I mean,
like
it's like
it
stacks
because
like in a library.
So
Yeah.
many movies tell you, like, you have to to trace a call, you have to keep the guy on the phone for a long time. And
Yeah.
no movies ever tell you why.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, finally, a movie is helping me visualize what's going on.
Yeah.
It's a guy like running across.
Yeah,
a
yeah,
giant
having
It's
to
warehouse.
not
sort of
just
ne-
like
yeah.
a loading bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
It's
And it's-
analog, man.
that and like there were a few things about the phone calls in this movie that made me think of another movie, but more broadly to a thing that was still going on at the time that Black Christmas was released, which was the search for the Zodiac killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that like, well, I mean, if the movie is to be trusted as an accurate representation of what happened, which I believe it's widely considered to be a very accurate movie.
You're talking about Fincher's Zodiac.
Yeah. The Zodiac killer makes a lot of phone calls that are too short to be traced, and that like his identity can't be confirmed for that reason. And that's like that mystery was never completely solved, but that's still an ongoing investigation at that time. So that's probably part of why a movie like Black Christmas could resonate.
Why don't we jump into Unlikely Shared Universe?
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this one.
Does anyone in particular want to kick it off?
Well, James, you have two of them, you said?
I'm happy to do both, but I only brought one just in case. I was a little bit nervous about actor crossover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
It's up to you. You can either just do your favorite or you can do both.
I want to
Yeah.
do both.
Cool.
Let's do both.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it, man.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Phyllis survived.
Mm.
Yes.
She looked dead with her eyes open, but after Olivia Hussey's character.
Jess.
But after Jess closed the door and ran away, she started blinking. So there.
She was just in shock.
Yeah, she was just in shock. That
Yeah,
she,
yeah.
traumatized by the whole experience. She and her boyfriend in the movie, who we didn't talk about, by
I
the
kind of
way.
love him. He's great.
Santa.
The Santa Claus,
Yeah.
it's like, ho, ho, ho.
Yeah.
And he's like so just pissed to be there or something. But like at the end of the movie too, who's going to tell him?
Yeah.
Yeah,
remember that?
exactly.
Oh, good point. Oh,
Like
layers of just bleakness.
Well, maybe Claire's boyfriend will tell him because he's been through it.
Yeah.
also.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
Yeah, exactly.
They can
And he seems to have a
commiserate.
head on his
Yeah.
shoulders. you know.
Yeah.
But regardless, it doesn't even matter because Phyllis is alive.
Oh, good
true.
point. Yes.
And she survived. Traumatized by the whole experience, she and her boyfriend decide to relocate to New Jersey, where they get married and raise a daughter named Katie. Katie grows wishing to be a great journalist, and she moves to New York City to achieve that dream as a segment producer on a big TV news show called The Breakdown, co-anchored by arrogant 50-something Chuck, a total diva nightmare, and the sweet but self-absorbed Portia, who kind of looks like if Lionel Richie had a daughter. Mom is pretty cloying with Katie, but it is a sweet, dependable relationship. Then one day, Mom shows up to the office and tells Katie she just got hired as an intern at Katie's news network. This horrifies Katie. Mom is immediately put in the position of getting coffee, lunches, and snacks for the diva anchor Chuck, who has a nasty habit of frivolously firing interns. However, Mom proves to be uniquely adept at handling Chuck, basically telling him like it is, like a doting mother. She's the best intern. Many adventures ensue, about 2 seasons, with Katie, her mom, and the wacky cast of characters on The Breakdown, which is a TV show,
Yeah.
but that's not the name of the actual show.
Right.
Yeah.
I got you.
The show within a show.
Yeah. Any guesses?
This is so familiar to me, but I can't remember. What
So
this is called.
I forgot because off mic you had said that this was going to be a TV show. I thought for a minute you were setting up the movie Morning Glory. This sounds so much like it. But I know it's not. I don't think I have this one.
Same.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna get it, but I do know what you're talking about. I'm just not gonna remember the title.
Okay. The Clue with Lionel Richie's daughter.
Yeah, I know.
I was
Yeah.
hoping like Nicole
Uh-huh,
Richie.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what is
I'm
the
with
name
you
of that?
there, but I
This is great news.
That's yes.
Which
that's-
lasted about
Yeah.
2 seasons.
Dougie watched this. I never watched this, which is why I was like, I can't quite put my finger on it. But my partner did watch this.
It's great. I mean, it's created by Tracy Wigfield and is EP'd by like Tina Fey, Robert
Yeah.
Carlock, and the
Right.
whole like sort of 30 Rock
Mm.
crew. You
Yeah.
know, it has those sort of vibes, but like specifically the main character, Andrea Martin. What a shame that this show didn't like really catch on because she was such a funny, like a great lead for a sitcom.
Yeah.
cool.
Because I feel like she has been like in the wings waiting. She's been ready, I think. She's
Yeah.
had these skills for her entire career and she's like not really been utilized in the way that she should be.
That's a really great showcase of her talents. That
Yeah.
show, like, I'd very highly recommend it.
Love it. Thanks,
Cool.
man.
Yeah.
Part 1 of
Yeah.
James's unlikely shared universe. I love it.
Cool.
Part 1.
Yeah,
Do you
can
want-
I present an alternative Phil?
Yeah,
'Cause
give it to us.
I agree that Phil's death is one of the few that we don't see on screen. So she does look pretty dang dead when we see her in Barb. But she's just unconscious. Like you said, she starts blinking. And maybe she's found by Lieutenant Fuller. Like maybe we don't see this conversation, but part of the reason Fuller doesn't stick around to take care of Jess is because he's like, I got to get Phil to the hospital. So that she gets taken off to recover from her injuries. And the traumatizing events of the past few days put life in a perspective for Phil. And she decides to change her major to a lifelong passion of hers, fashion.
Mm.
Her renewed energy pushes her through her studies and sets her sights on Hollywood, where she quickly makes a name for herself in the world of costume designing. However, her most unique project yet comes from a phone call from a Hollywood producer who requests her assistance in orchestrating a top secret government conspiracy. Costuming may feel minor in this grand scheme, but Phil's expertise has the potential to make all of the difference. You got it too.
I think I do have it. Yes.
I got it too.
Do you want to tell us?
3, 2, 1.
Wag the dog.
Woo!
Yeah.
Great job, everyone.
Which we've covered before. Second unlikely shared universe in a few weeks, connecting back to that movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's an awesome movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
We
it's
really
been some
enjoyed
time.
talking about that.
Yeah, that was
that's a
yeah,
cool
it was a
movie.
fun movie and a very rich conversation that we got from it too.
Yeah,
Nice, yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
I love
Yeah.
it. Cool. Alrighty.
Well, I can pick this up.
Take it, man.
All right. So at the end of Black Christmas, it is strongly implied that Jess's erstwhile boyfriend, Peter Smythe, has died from his wounds in their climactic scuffle. However, what if, to go along with something that was suggested beforehand with a different character, what if Peter does not die at the end, but is just put in a coma that he eventually wakes up from? Like, we never get a confirmation that he's stone cold dead from those wounds, but we see he's unconscious. Let's say that this brush with fate gives Peter, when he wakes up from his coma, some much needed perspective, to the point that he resolves to change his ways on numerous levels. One of those levels is in his ability to relate to other people, becoming less needy in relationships and becoming more open-minded as both a friend and romantic partner. But the other more significant change in his outlook has to do with his career, in a development that we see the beginnings of during Black Christmas, when it's clear from his frenzied performance during a piano recital that his dreams of becoming a concert pianist may be misbegotten, to the point that he even registered for college with a fake name out of fear of failure. Luckily, in pursuing a career change, he is able to return to his given name, David Bowman, as he starts from scratch and turns his sights towards his original passion, space exploration. From one step to another during the course of around close to 30 years following the events that we've already seen, David Bowman works his way into NASA and becomes a renowned astronaut, eventually sent out on a mission with the destination of Jupiter, in which he and his co-pilot, Frank Poole, must cope with the exploits of a monotoned AI sent to accompany them. And in the course of this journey, in a rather different form than he initially envisioned, Dave, once known as Peter, resumes his existential musings about babyhood and the essence of creation.
Bring it all back.
If I wasn't going to do it, someone had
No,
to do it.
yep.
This is
that's much easier to play on piano, by the way.
you guys want to guess the title?
We're going to guess by theme music.
If
from now on.
we believe that Black Christmas takes place in 1974, I mean, I did say like approaching 30 years later.
No, you got it.
In a
almost
2001.
2001.
Yeah.
Yes, a space odyssey.
It's 2010, the year we make contact. Right?
Yep,
No, I thought that movie came out in like 97. Contact.
Yep. Nice. One of us would have had to have done it. It was just there for the taking.
That's Keir Delea, and I mean, I think it's true for most of us here that 2001: A Space Odyssey and Black Christmas are the only movies I have seen him in.
Yeah.
He is in 2010 too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did know that.
Okay. I think our opinion of Lieutenant Fuller is a pretty solid one, notwithstanding the fact that he folds up the case without actually solving it. What we don't know about Lieutenant Fuller is that he's actually pretty new to the precinct there. He actually grew up in a neighboring town to the campus, and he has dual citizenship with Canada and the US by way of his parents. See, his dad is from the States, and his mother, she's the Canadian one. And he's actually back there where he grew up after spending several years in law enforcement and even starting a family in the US. Fuller is recently separated from his wife, divorced perhaps because he caught wind of some illegal activity his wife and other townfolk were a part of, and torn between his duties as a family man and a man of the law, needed some distance and a dissolution of the marriage to get his head on right. And when we meet him, he's there on the campus licking his wounds, really, close back to home, but still as a cop. Luckily, he cares enough about his job to take the concerns of Jess and Claire's boyfriend seriously when they insist that something is not right. When he sees the case through to what he believes is its completion, he is left with the sting that divorcing his wife and moving back to Canada has also kept him from their daughter, Nancy. And the world can be a scary place for girl dads, especially one that has seen the violence on campus directed towards women unfold. Based on these crimes, he decides to move back to Springwood, Ohio, across those Great Lakes to continue in law enforcement, to be close to his daughter Nancy, not to reconcile with Marge, his ex-wife. Life is pretty good for a while, until one of Nancy's friends, Tina, ends up dead in a very gruesome manner. And what do you know? Her boyfriend is the prime suspect.
Not again.
This similarity to this old, impactful case that he led in Canada blinds the judgment of Lieutenant Fuller, who's still a police officer, now going by his nickname Don, and also adopting his father's surname, Thompson. And it also blinds him from his own daughter's insistence that the actual killer is coming from a blended space of dream and actual reality, and exacting his revenge on the children of the parents who sealed his demise.
All right.
This is one of the greatest movies ever made.
Yeah.
Can we go 1, 2, 3 on this one?
Sure.
1.
3, 2,
Count down or count up?
down. 3, 2, 1.
The Nightmare on Elm Street.
Which I haven't seen, but just taking a cursory look at John Saxon's credits, that's the other thing that jumped out.
Yeah, I mean, this one is...
This is a great movie.
It's so
great. It's really
good.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's also super low-hanging fruit. If you're a horror fan, this is right there for the taking. But
I
yes.
mean, it's like one of his most iconic, roles, just like the Space Baby from 2001.
Right.
And these two connect so well.
Yeah, they really
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
It's kind of... again, if no one was going to do it, I was going to do it.
Yeah.
James, you want to bring us home?
Yes, I'm happy to. Lieutenant Fuller wasn't always a college town cop. He was once an American playboy, gambler, and expert martial artist. After he finds himself indebted to the mob in a pretty serious way, as little as 1 year before the events of Black Christmas, he's on the run. He enrolls in a high-stakes martial arts tournament on a private island near Hong Kong, owned and operated by a nefarious dude named Han, who seems to lord over a ton of mean and nasty guards and henchmen. At first, the tournament goes pretty well for him. He even makes a buddy, this dude Lee, a man from Hong Kong who looks a lot like Kato on TV screen porn. However, all hell breaks loose when it turns out Han is a violent drug lord with giant metal claws for a left hand. Our guy and Lee have to fight their way out, and after the battle is won by the good guys, our guy and Lee share a weary and very moving thumbs up as the military arrives to take control of the island. Our guy, I don't know why I keep calling him our guy.
He is
just
our
keep doing
guy.
it. He is our guy. Yeah.
Our man, then moves on to upstate New York, aka Canada, to live a quieter life as a college town cop.
Love it. Can we
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 this one? Or 3, 2, 1 it?
Yeah. Yes.
3, 2, 1.
Enter the Dragon.
That's the one.
Nice.
You nailed it.
That's such a goofy movie. I remember I saw that movie in high school. The magic of it did not work on me then. I was like, this movie is so fucking weird.
It is very
It's a weird movie, but I'm glad I saw it.
But Bruce
Yeah.
Lee in it is like unbelievable.
No, he
he
is.
moves like water or something.
No. I mean,
like,
it is
there's something
fully
about
a showcase for him. Yeah.
yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
a weird one.
It's
But
very
it's-
strange.
Yeah, that I saw it when I was like 13. It's an entertaining movie to say the least. Yeah.
Entertaining.
Yes.
And released, like after he died too.
Yeah,
That's the
true.
thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bummer. It's his last film, basically.
The posthumous release.
The posthumous release.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. Guys, Black Christmas.
This
We
was
did
so
it.
fun.
Yes.
We made
did
it.
Any final thoughts that we want to mention before we leave?
Thanks for suggesting this to us.
Yeah.
Very glad to have finally covered it. And well, I think this presents the possibility that I'll be the recommender in future scenarios. So looking forward to being the recommender of this movie.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to go. Like I said, I want to get this on Blu-ray. I'm really excited to own this and visit it whenever I want because I've watched it twice now, and been a blast both times. So thank you.
Very cool. I've
Yeah.
said pretty much everything that I want to say about this one. I just think it's a incredibly
neat.
well-crafted film. And I think more people should see it. If you like Halloween,
This
You
was
should
a
see Black
great,
Christmas, yeah.
great introduction. I mean, again, last week we did do some horror movies, but I still feel like this is such a quintessential Halloween kind of movie, even though does take place at Christmas. So
Yeah.
I just feel like this was my introduction to this year's Halloween season.
love
Yeah.
it. Love it. How about
Hey.
you, James? Any last thing?
Not really. I mean, just kind of like I feel like I've said everything I want to about it. It is interesting that this movie, kicked off the holiday trend of,
Yeah.
one movie that I keep hearing about and keep getting, recommended, My Bloody Valentine from the
Yeah.
early 80s. I've never gotten around to that.
No, I
Same,
haven't seen that
yeah.
one
I
either.
don't know this movie. I know this band.
Yeah, that I do know.
There
Yeah.
is a band.
Yeah, like what holidays don't have a horror movie attached to them yet?
Very cool. James, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For
This
being
was so
here.
much fun.
Oh man, this
Yeah,
was so
it was a
cool.
great
Where can our listeners find your work?
Well, I'd love to, just reiterate, We Strangers is now on VOD. So
yeah.
you can watch that all the usual places, iTunes, Amazon. It's, VOD rental or purchase it if you want to. Yeah. It's a fun movie. I would recommend watching it with good speakers, very loud, and also, and just kind of like, sit back and relax. It's a real trip, baby. I also recently had edited a short documentary about seaweed. And
Interesting.
it's like a very funny, interesting documentary that's only about 30 minutes long. It's a fun kind of lighthearted sort of nature film.
And is that streamable too, or
So
on VOD or
it's
something?
narrated by Forrest Whitaker. It is
Oh, cool.
streaming on YouTube on Leo DiCaprio's YouTube channel right
Huh.
now.
Wow.
Cool.
All right.
And it is, direct. I did it for my friend director Jake Sumner.
Mhm.
And it was a lot of fun. I'd really recommend checking it out. It's good.
Nice.
It's
Wow.
on YouTube. Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So check that
Accessible.
out. And then as far as handles, you can follow me on Instagram at Codboyannis.
Are you on Letterboxd?
I am on Letterboxd. Yes, you can also follow me on Letterboxd, and I'll tell you what the name of that is right now. I think it's also Codboyannis, to be honest, because I love saying that. I mean, it's just J Codoyannis.
Ah,
Okay.
okay.
That nearly rhymed Codboyannis, to be honest.
To be honest.
And that
Yeah.
is very good, actually.
Yeah.
Codboyannis, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's like,
You
I got
can
a
have
take for
that.
you. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
I'll give you my honest take.
Yeah. It's like, it's your talk show or something like that.
Yeah. Codboyannis, to be honest.
Well, normally we don't necessarily foretell our bonus episodes, but I feel like this is an appropriate occasion to do that
Sure.
because
Sure.
like we're going to keep talking about these unorthodox holiday movies as the holiday season draws closer. But while we're on the way to that, there's another movie out right now that's getting a lot of buzz that for a few reasons is pretty fitting for us to talk about too. One of them being that we've covered a few films by its director, Paul Thomas Anderson, so far, but also that it goes back to a recent cycle organizer of ours in that this film features a few musicians turned actors.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention that one of the Paul Thomas Anderson films that we covered in the past shares a trait with this new one in being an adaptation of a Thomas Pynchon novel.
I thought you were going to say the trait that it shares is that Alana Haim is in Licorice Pizza and also in One Battle After
Well,
Another.
that's also true.
Musician turned actors.
Yeah.
Well, there's another one in One Battle After Another, though.
Yeah.
We also have Tiana
That's
Taylor.
true.
But yes, we're going to be talking about One Battle After Another, so stay tuned for that. Do we want to say anything about the next holiday movie?
Yeah, so our current cycle, unorthodox holiday films, is a loosely defined one, I think, right?
Yeah.
And the next movie up is actually one that has been suggested to us by a few different past guests, either on mic or off. The most fervent of which is lined up to be our guest for that episode. I'm just going to say that. I think this movie has holiday vibes.
Yeah.
In that I think this is a movie for a certain generation, is very nostalgic. It's the kind of movie that you would pop on if you were home for the holidays. And that movie is Hook. Steven Spielberg's take on the story of Peter Pan from 1991. Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman, Julie Roberts, Bob Hoskins. I'm excited to talk about that
I'm
one
pumped
too.
for this.
Yeah. So before Hook, you're going to get one battle after the other.
Yes.
After another. Pardon me.
Both films feature insurgents sort of scurrying around.
Totally. That's true.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe when we talk one battle after the other, our comparison corner will bring up
Bring up Hook.
It's just like, those Lost Boys. It's kind of like
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, in addition to this podcast, you can follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Sleepless Cinematic Pod. You can contact us via email. We would love to hear from you. Write to us at sleeplesscinematicpod@gmail.com. If you're on Letterboxd, you can follow me, Madeline, at Patroness of Cats.
And you can follow me, Julian, at Julian_Barthold. If you're listening to us for the first time, thank you for finding us. Or if this is the 6th, 7th, or even the 70th time, yes, we're hitting those numbers now, that you've listened to us, thank you so much for sticking with us. We have really grown to love doing this, and it means the world to have our budding listenership grow.
And if you haven't already, we'd ask you, return listener, to please write us a positive review and rate us on your podcast platform of choice. This is one of the best ways for new listeners to find us and help our podcast take its next steps. You can also keep it grassroots. You can tell a friend to tell a friend about the Sleepless Cinematic Podcast. That helps too.
It's me, Billy.
It's really scary.